What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all having a fantastic day. So, in this one, I wanted to do my guide to how to beat the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. Now, this is a challenge I'm pretty sure only available to Thronebreaker players. So, if you have rank 3 6-star and you've completed Act 6, you will have access to this. But it is a very hard challenge if you do not have certain counters. So, today I wanted to go in and show you how I did it. And let me just rearrange my team right now and get who I did. So, I had Hulkbuster, who else? Quake, Immortal Hulk, and then my last two, where are they? Give me a second. My last two were, here he is, Corvus Glaive and Hyperion. So this was my team, and I'm just going to go over each fight and how I did it and who I believe the best counters are. So you start over here, and with this Doctor Doom that has Bubble Shield, Particle Protector, Micro Reflect, Size Matters, just all these crazy nodes. So personally, I just used Quake for this fight because it was quick and easy. Nothing that can counter Quake in the fight, so no True Strike, just straightforward, no stun immune, easy fight with Quake. But I've also seen a lot of people doing it with Immortal Hulk and like some really like cool 60-second takedowns, like minute 30 takedowns. So he'd be a great option too if you want to go in. So next we have the Terrax, and this is one of the harder bosses because he has Energize, and he has this power gain buff and this galactic inversion or intervention. It's just a lot of stuff on him to make him so annoying. And so I do believe that the best counter to this is Quake, who I used, and even if you're not sure who to bring, just I'd say Quake. Out of any other champion that can do this fight, I think it's her because he has resistance to power drain effects, I'm pretty sure, so people like Doctor Doom aren't going to work as well. Or wait, I think that might be the next fight. What is it? When entering strike distance, the buff is removed, so basically it's just an annoying Terax. So I was wrong with the nodes, but still Quake is the best because you can just hold that block, just not block, what am I saying, heavy attack, and then just completely counter his nodes. It'll take a little bit more time because it is a Terax. I boosted up for this fight, so that didn't take as long. But it wasn't a bad fight, just a little bit long and tedious. And I did forget one of the other best options for this fight is actually Namor, so you can reflect all the damage back on a Terax as long as you have a Sig 200 Namor. If you do not have Sig 200, do not use him for that fight. So those are some options that you could use for the Terax fight. Now, Vision is one of the easier fights. He has a node where power drain abilities are 90% less effective, Surging Vengeance, so he uses the specials in order from 1, 2, and then 3. And he has a thing where if you're struck by the special 3, you are instantly KO'd. So I did a practice run on this path, and for that I used Doctor Doom, and he was able to solo it with ease. But I also used Quake on my actual temp, and then used Corvus to gain my first 2 charges. So Quake works the fight as well, and then Corvus, you could muscle it out, but it's a bit annoying. I think I also used Hulkbuster for a little bit of it to just get it down, and then those would all be great options. Some other ones just power control, so basically like Magics. Who else? Magic, Doom, they're all great options, and then there's probably some I'm missing, but any power control champion that has a very strong power control would work here, just if it's not really strong, because he does have the resistance power drain, so it's power burn, power steal, it'd probably work better, and that's why Doom is one of the best options for it. So Vision Fight is not bad at all. Now we have the MODOK boss, and this has Hard Knock Life, Stun Vulnerability, Specialist 1 where he throws a special and does more damage, and it's also unblockable with his hands. So this is, once again, just another super easy Quake fight. Stun Vulnerability gives you even more damage when you're in that phase where you're just getting the stuns on and then doing your big concussion damage. But also, I did grab my second charge with Corvus off this fight just to get the auto block one done. So that wasn't that bad. I think this was, through this part of the quest, I was unitless, or no, I was 1 revive. I used 1 revive because I had to sacrifice Quake against Vision so I could capture my 2 charges with Corvus, and then I did Corvus against MODOK and died, and then I used Quake to finish it off. So I only used 1 revive up to this point, and then we get on to the next fight, which is Spider-Ham. Well, wait, let me just talk about other good counters for this. You could use like Nick Fury if you feel confident in evading that special 1. You could use one of the options I thought would be really good is actually Apocalypse, because you can stun through the block and then you can throw your specials while they're stunned, so it does huge damage. But other great options would be like Shang-Chi. I know Seaton used him and just absolutely destroyed it. So those are the counters, and now we're actually going to get on to Spider-Ham. So he has Energize, Power Bond, so the power drain abilities are less effective, and he's completely immune to debuffs. So this is an extremely annoying fight that I actually used Quake for. This was just a stun immune, basically 5 minutes straight Spider-Ham fight. It was very, very annoying. It wasn't extremely difficult. You just have to learn Spider-Ham's animations so that you know when to dash back and just perform your dexes and your heavy charges. So it was not an awful fight, but if you do not have a counter for it, it could potentially be one of the worst fights. I think Corvus you could use just to get through it. Like, you could muscle through with Corvus and other evade counters, but you just have to remember that you're going to push Spider-Ham up to a special 2 if you're doing 5-hit combos, and then you're going to eat a lot of block damage. So that's if Energize wasn't on this fight, it'd be 10 times easier, but it is, and that's why Quake works the best, because she doesn't give him power. You don't have to worry about that block damage. So that's it for the first section, and then I went to the second one, as this is the full guide, and next we have another awful fight for me, but not an awful fight if you bring in a certain champion. This was the, what's his name, Weapon X. So all of his buffs last 40% longer, his regeneration is 50% more potent, and he reduces damage up to 20% proportionate to missing health. So it's not an awful fight. If you have someone like Archangel, he absolutely shreds the fight. I saw KT1 use him, just took it down in seconds. Could muscle your way through with Corvus and a power booster, that'd work fine. But for me, I used Quake for most of it, and it was just like the Spider-Ham fight, but a little bit more annoying because you have to deal with the Berserker charges. Basically, if you get hit, you're dead. So it's definitely not a fun fight, but you can do it. And this is also where my next death came, because I died on this guy to get the last mutant charge for Corvus, which honestly was kind of a bit of a silly mistake on my part, because I could have just used someone else to try and get the Weapon X down, so I had Quake for the next few fights because I needed her. But it is what it is. Corvus got the charge on that fight, and as long as you have someone that can either muscle through, like I said, Corvus, or you have Archangel, who's just the perfect counter. Magneto would also work really well. Those are some great options, and you can Quake it, because Quake is just the MVP for this overall. And next we have a Thing boss with shifting immunity, oscillate, and unblockable. This is one of the easiest fights. You could use Shang-Chi, you could use Stealth Spidey, you could use She-Hulk. Any slow champion would work for this. Very easy fight. I used Quake once again because bypasses the rock stacks, don't have to worry about them, and she can stun him, so everything's fine there. Very easy fight. And now we move on to the core that has Mixmaster, Flux Dispersal, Gauss Wrap, and Gauss Warp, and he's aggressive. So this is a bit of an annoying fight if you don't have a good counter with the Mixmaster, which is very hard. So you could use Doom, do like the medium, light, medium combos. You could use Havoc, but it'd be very annoying, especially if you're throwing certain combos in a row because of the Mixmaster. You gotta throw heavy attacks though, so Doom is actually not bad for this. But once again, guess who I used? That's right, it's Quake, because Quake bypasses all the things where you could hit and give him these annoying like charges, and she just made the fight an absolute breeze. And remember, this entire time I was boosted with Quake, so I think at this point I was using only a 20% boost, but make sure you have your boosts on if you're going to use Quake, or else it will take much longer and be much more tedious. So that is the Korg, and now we move on to Dragon Man. So Dragon Man has stun immunity, aspect of evolution, power bond. Again, there's a lot of champions with the power bond node. So the Dragon Man boss, once again, who did I use? Quake, of course. Quake actually works pretty well for this. If you can disable that first power gain charge on Dragon Man by blocking the special 1, and then have your concussion up when he's supposed to gain his next power up, or power gain, there we go. His next power gain buff, you can actually work really well for this fight. So I quaked through it, very easy. You could also use Magneto because he's a metal champion. You just have to learn how to intercept certain specials with your own heavy attack because he is a stun immune champion. But Magneto will work for this. Immortal Hulk can muscle through it in a few revives if you want to do that. And other champions just that can counter Dragon Man usually. So Doom would also work because he does have the slight power drain ineffectiveness, but it works just like the Vision fight did over here. Doom also works for that, so I don't see why he wouldn't work for this Dragon Man. And Next, on the final part of this path, we have the really annoying Black Panther boss that has Armored Assault, Footloose, Arc Overload. So I used Corvus for the first attempt on this fight, and I got kind of clapped after one special 2 from myself, so it took him down a bit. You can definitely muscle through with Corvus, but I just used Quake, of course, and once you got where I was using Concussion, and then it deactivated the, what's it called? What's it called again? I'm losing my mind. Arc Overload, so I just used the Heavy Attack and Concussion to get rid of that. It made the fight so much easier. Just this entire path is basically a giant Quake fest. All 5 of these fights can be done by her. Very, very simple with her. As long as you don't mess up and you know how to play her, it'll be easy. But other options you could use for this Black Panther, I'm not really sure why I didn't use Hulkbuster for an attempt, because he has the armor breaks. He probably would have worked really well for this. Just anyone that can usually counter Black Panther Civil War is not the best in this situation because he has Footloose. So it's a bit more of an annoying fight. I guess Shang-Chi could work for it if you're willing to get the slow debuffs on and then avoid all the like stunning with your what is it called? What is it? 5-hit combo, and then the stun on that would reflect if he had the armor up. So it's a complicated fight, but it's simply broken down to Corvus and Quake can do it. So now I went to this, and this is the third section with Nightcrawler, Spider-Gwen, Domino, Mojo, and Immortal Abomination. So we start with Nightcrawler. This is definitely one of the easiest fights. It's just standard immune to ability accuracy, and then just the defender gains a 60% chance to evade. And so basically all I did was use Corvus, get him into swashbuckling phase, and this was an easy solo. You could use Quake for this, you could use Hyperion for this, you could use Hulkbuster, you could use, what's his name, I'm blanking, use Apocalypse just to get the evade charges and just absolutely nuke him. Any evade counter, or just really anyone, as long as you push them into swashbuckling, this is probably one of the easiest fights in this entire thing. So it's a very nice break after the really hard last path if you didn't have Quake. But yeah, this was not a bad fight at all. I just not muscled through even. It was a quick solo with Corvus. So now we move on to the Spider-Man. This was a hard fight. So it was window of opportunity where the stun that you would place on the defender gets placed back on you. So Quake is a no-go, absolutely awful for this fight. And then you have the Force of Will again, so no ability accuracy reduction, extra evade chance, and it's just not fun. So I did use Corvus. This was a muscle fight. It used about 3 or 4 revives for me because she kept evading, and I kept not being able to throw my special 2, even though I got so close to it. So I definitely could have done it in at least like 2 revives, but just my inability to get to the special 2 just kind of wrecked me, and I know I should have hit into the block because she can't evade the block, so that was my bad. But overall, it was not the best fight for me. It was probably one of my worst fights on the path, but if you have a counter for it, like Shang-Chi with the evade counter, the slow, She-Hulk, she can do it. Just anyone that can counter her evade, because that's the most annoying part about this fight. The stun isn't that bad, but if you are using Shang-Chi, you gotta watch out for those 5 combos. And yeah, just any standard evade counter. I think Nick Fury could also work for that, because he has the stun immunity, so it wouldn't reflect onto you. He'd be a great counter, actually. Just yeah, those are some of the best options, but big highlight of that is do not use Quake. You will get wrecked. Now this Domino. Also not another super fun fight, but I was able to get it done with Corvus in 1 revive because she has Matador, so you get the power every time she throws a bar, or that was bad. You get a bar of power every time she throws a special attack. So you just keep baiting out the special ones, you'll be fine, and you have power shield, so just throw a bunch of special 2s with Corvus, everything's easy. I did die with Corvus on my first revive, and then I just finished off with Hulkbuster, so it was a fairly easy fight. Now the Mojo. This was an annoying boss. So every 20 seconds he completes his current prompt, and then you get a nullify every 3 seconds when you are close to the defender. And this fight did suck a bit. I used 3 revives, and it was literally just getting through it with Immortal Hulk. I had to refresh my app a bunch of times just because Immortal Hulk doesn't have that guaranteed stun on the special 1. If you had that guaranteed stun, this fight would have been done in like around 1 or 2 revives. But because of that, we had to go a little bit longer than I would have liked it, but it's not an awful fight. If you have Immortal Hulk, you're just going to go in knowing that you're going to spend some revives. But usually want champions that don't activate buffs, so I think Red Guardian would probably be good for this. Champions like, if you turn off your dexterity, actually, it's probably fine. Human Torch could probably solo this pretty easily because it is a Mystic after all. So yeah, just don't use buff heavy or buff reliant champions. Like Hyperion would absolutely get wrecked in that fight. And then Quake also does not work for it because he has the nullify. He'll place haters on you and you'll start degenning. And it's just not a fun time. So I did not use Quake for that fight. These first or these middle three fights here cannot be quaked. So that's the big headline here. And then we move on to Immortal Abomination, which is a nice break because this can be quaked. And there's a bleed node, there is the under pressure node where the dash back you get disorient, and I just use Quake for this because with the dashbacks you get the disorient, which is basically just free willpower healing, and it really topped my Quake off for the rest of the path. But you can use Immortal Hulk for this because he's a poison immunity. You just absolutely nuke him down. Hyperion would probably work well for this because he is the poison immunity himself. My bad, I just had to cough. Who else would work for this? I think you could use Archangel because he starts off with the poisons on himself, so you just convert those to neurotoxins. Just basically any poison immune champ or Quake would work for this. And now that I think of it, Ghost would actually work pretty well. And now that I'm thinking of Ghost, she would actually work really well for a lot of these fights. Just keep that in mind. I did not mention Ghost until now, but she's very good for this challenge. So Ghost, Quake, Mortal Hulk, and Archangel are some great options for that. Mortal Abomination. And then we move down here to my Big Daddy Apocalypse. I felt very bad killing this man off, but I had to do it. So he has this node that's kind of funky where he treats you as a mutant no matter who you're using. And then there's this thing with like robotic attackers. They get disadvantages, but I didn't have any robots on my team, so it was all fine. And then I saw KT1 use Immortal Hulk on this, just muscled his way through in about a revive or two. You could use Corvus with a power boost, and what I did was I used Hulk Buster for my first attempt, got him down about 25%, then used Corvus, got him down another chunk, and then used Corvus one more time, finished off the Apocalypse, so not a bad fight at all. Just don't use Quake because he can evade counter you. And then for our next fight, we have the Sasquatch boss. So he has extra regeneration and life cycle, hard knock life, and power stack. So once again, this is a Quake fight I used. So since he has life cycle, I had to throw heavy attacks so that the timer would go down. And then right as my last concussion was about to go on to deal the big damage, I heavy attacked so that the life cycle timer was off and that my damage was able to kill him. So definitely recommend Quake for this fight. Immortal Hulk could work because you're knocking him down with so many special attacks you're spamming as long as you get the stun off the special one. And those are my top options, really, just those two. I didn't really see anyone else who'd be very good at this fight. I guess you could use Archangel and Human Torch now that I think of it, because they would work very well. And then those are just the main counters against Sasquatch, Quake, Immortal Hulk, Archangel, Human Torch. Just those are the big boys there. Now I move on to Killmonger, who has the polka dot power, so you're basically going to gain no power. Sharpened Claw, so if they hit you, you're going to get the block damage, and then this node that makes it bad if you're a robot. So this was a Corvus fight. Cost me about 2 revives, just had to muscle through once again. Used the Cosmic Power Booster. It's actually okay because you get some free willpower healing off the bleeds when Killmonger hits your block. So I just let him hit me, put the armor break on, just medium light combos until I got my special 2, and just did that for the entire fight. So it wasn't awful. I think he is one of the very few counters to this Killmonger. You could use Archangel, I suppose, but Corvus is just the OP counter, so he is the one I would use. And so our next fight is going to be this Void with long distance relationship over here. He also has Power Shield, Shifting Immunity. So this is just a big old Corvus fight because it's Power Shield. You just get your power back, launch special 2s. This was a 2-shot for me because I just didn't have enough power to keep going, and the debuffs eventually killed me. Now, fair warning, your Corvus 100% needs to be awakened to do this fight, or else the debuffs will kill you, but as long as you have that awakened ability, you will be absolutely fine. You're chilling. It's just an easy fight with Corvus. I don't really know who else you could use that's practical for this fight. Quake does not work. Immortal Hulk does not work. Archangel might work, but not well. And then, yeah, I just say get through it with, what's his face? Corvus, or you could use Shang-Chi to cleanse the debuffs. So those are my top options for that fight. And then we move on to Nick Fury, which has Lionheart, Vigor, Kinetic Transfer. This, once again, was a big old Quake fight. Just it's going to be a little bit long because he has essentially 130% health because he has that second life, but not bad at all with Quake. Could muscle through once again with Corvus. Archangel, I don't think works too well for the fight, but you could make it work. And then, yeah, just the options I've been saying throughout this thing. Ghost would actually work really well for it because you can evade the hits of a special 1, just build your power, and then go crazy with your special 2s. So those are all the fights for the main paths if you want to do those, and then we just move on to the Nameless Thanos at the end. So he has the phase where he just is doing nothing essentially for the first 4%. He's not getting power, he's not throwing specials, and you can just do that easily. So I use Hyperion for that first phase just to build up heavy attack Furies, and then I was able to go crazy in the second phase. So it's basically every time he throws a special 1, he will put this weird bleed thing on himself so that he places a bleed on you if you hit him. But if you're using Hyperion, you enter that phase, you have like 10 to 15 Furies already built up from the previous phase. Throw a special 2. If it stuns, great. You just keep looping your special 2 so that you never have to deal with the phase. Completely bypass it, and you enter the second phase. So that is probably the easiest one. You could also use Corvus because he's bleed immune, but Hyperion is just easily the best option in my opinion. Then you get to the second phase. Sorry, keep coughing. You get to the second phase, where it is, special 2 is only thrown, and you have this node where you degenerate a certain amount of health and you gain it back after that. He also has an evade, so if you hit him while he evades, he puts a stun on you, and you essentially get comboed into oblivion. So I actually used Quake for a small portion of this fight just because she was alive and I knew I was going to have to throw her in at some point. So she took about 5% off, nothing crazy, but some okay damage. But Corvus is just the king of this part, because if you accidentally mess up and you are degenerating so much health, you just gain it back as long as you have that awakened ability. So he can easily do that part of the phase. Then we move on to the last one where you need to land the Intercept, and he will throw his special 3, but as long as you intercept, you get the Safeguard, and you only lose about 25% health. So this, I just used my remaining champions, Hulkbuster, Immortal Hulk, and Corvus, and they just got through it. Just land the Intercept, get as much damage as you can in before he throws that special 3, so whether that's blocking to make sure you can get a little bit more damage in, anything you can do is helpful. And Immortal Hulk is actually pretty good for it because you can build up your rage stacks. You just go in crazy after Thanos will special 3 you. You still have enough health left to go throw a special attack, maybe get a special 1 or something, just a little bit of burst damage, and then I just finished off with Corvus. So MVPs for this thing, I would say, are easily number 1 Quake, number 2 actually Immortal Hulk because he has so many good and quirky uses here. Corvus is up there, Ghost is up there, Archangel, and then just some miscellaneous ones. Hyperion's great for the boss, Captain Infinity War is great for the boss, Namor has his uses, Shang-Chi's not bad. So yeah, those are my main champions that I would use to beat this thing. I 100% it. It wasn't the worst thing. I think it cost me about 20 revives, so not awful, and it was totally worth it for the insane reward. So that's going to do it for my breakdown of the Grandmaster's Gauntlet. I hope it was helpful. If you're confused on anything, please let me know in the comments, and I will try to explain it as best as possible. And I just want to take this time to say thank you all so much for subscribing to the channel. We've just gone on a crazy spree recently, and it truly does mean a lot to me that you're all willing to support the channel like this. So I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.